Sally Sharif is a lecturer at the University of British Columbia and an incoming professor at the College of Holy Cross in Massachusetts. She posted this. I just gave a closed book, pen and paper midterm exam in my 300-level course at UBC, University of British Columbia, with 100 students. All exams were graded by an experienced graduate-level TA according to a rubric. The average was 64 out of 100. My class averages at UBC are usually 80 to 85. Listen to this context. It was the first midterm. It only covered 4 weeks of material. Students had a list of possible questions in advance. Questions included 3 concept definitions, 3 paragraph-long questions, and a 1.5, 1.5-page essay. I've taught this class multiple times. Nothing in my teaching style changed this semester. We read entire paragraphs of text in class so students don't have to do something on their own that wasn't covered during the lecture. Students take a 10-question multiple-choice quiz at the end of every class, 30% of your final grade. Attendance is 95 to 99% every class. Attention during lectures and participation in pair work activities are very high, anticipating the end-of-class quiz. And here's what you think is happening. Unfortunately, I suspect many students are not reading the material on the syllabus. They're asking LLMs to summarize it instead, AI, large language models. After the midterms, students reported they thought they knew the concept definitions but couldn't produce them on paper. They thought they understood the arguments but struggled to connect them or identify points of agreement and disagreement. Her view: it might be cool or innovative to teach students to summarize readings with ChatGPT or write essays with Claude, but we may be doing them a disservice, reducing their ability to retain material, think creatively, and reason from what they know. If you only read what AI has summarized for you, you don't truly know the material. Yes, what a concept. Read, think. Just crazy enough to work. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Mark Bauerlein, professor of English at Emory University, senior editor at First Things, and author of The Dumbest Generation and The Dumbest Generation Grows Up. And I think we're in the throes of the dumbest generation growing up. Professor Bauerlein, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Happy to join you once again, sir.
I gather from what I've read of your recent work, and not so recent work, like from almost 20 years ago, that the professor's anecdote from British Columbia is not a surprise to you.
No, not at all. You know, I wrote that first Dumbest Generation book 20 years ago. The subtitle was How the Digital Age Stupefies Young Americans and Jeopardizes Our Future. But I was flat wrong in that book to say so. It was much, much worse than I predicted. And here's the problem. We've got AI now. As the professor rightly said, they're using AI to do the work. They don't have to read. They just do a summary using the artificial intelligence. They don't have to write their own papers. They have AI write their own papers. And AI is getting so good that it's actually being able to adopt, sort of an individual style tailored to the student. So it's getting harder for teachers to divine the AI work being done in the out-of-class writing. But we got to remember, again, 20 years ago, there was massive cheerleading going on for technology in the classroom. We got to get the computers. We got to get the kids on screens. We got to teach the elementary school kids keyboard skills. And so now the technology has developed to the point where it actually does the work for the students. And all those tech cheerleaders realize, oh, my goodness, we were wrong. But don't expect them to say we were flat wrong because they made a whole lot of money putting all those computers in classrooms, and many of those computers are now up in the attic gathering dust. So this is sort of a long process. The fruits are here, and kids don't read. They don't feel they have to read anymore, and it's just very hard now for teachers to make assignments and do the grading that can get them back on the right track.
Well, I got to say, I'm not very sympathetic about institutions of higher or even medium level learning sort of capitulating to the cultural zeitgeist. So, on the one hand, kids aren't reading, and the dawn of AI and computers. On the other hand, as you comment on in your piece in the New York Post, they're not being assigned reading either. English classes, you don't have books on the syllabus, or they're being assigned reading assignments that are a few pages long to sort of essentially play down to the this idea of the shrinking attention span. But these institutions should be attempting to remediate that by challenging, not by playing to the lowest common denominator, shouldn't they?
Well, the problem there, you're right. We got the zeitgeist, media, screens, kids with cell phones. They're on Instagram all the time. And yes, the schools are not vigorously trying to create a counterculture within the classroom. And one reason for that is that it runs against the progressivist ideology of child-centered schooling. We must meet the kids where they are. We must try to be relevant to the kids. We shouldn't make them read old books because, listen, man, it's the 21st century. They're doing a new thing. I mean, I was once in a standards meeting with a group of educators working out learning standards, the things kids need to do. And when we're talking about elementary school kids, spelling came up, and one educator said, with all the texting and social media, kids are doing very inventive things today with spelling. I'm not sure that we can really impose that kind of standard English rules anymore. And I think, this person should not even be in the room. Okay, you shouldn't be here. You are a complete fraud on this. So, you mentioned the New York Post. Stanley Kurtz and I have created a bill, a model piece of legislation, and it's nonpartisan because it asks English classes to assign at least 2 complete books. The students must read the entire thing in English class from grade 6 to 12 because we got way too many kids going to college now who've never read a complete book in school. Well, let's not capitulate to that. Let's institute, again, this classroom. You walk into this school and you are entering an intellectual world whose standards are not geared to what is going on in the rest of pop culture, youth culture, which is ever more stupid and vulgar. So come on, let's hold the line on things.
Well, I mean, I guess, you don't need to read Animal Farm if you're living on it. Maybe that's the philosophy. I don't know. It's really.
This is actually an important point. It's an important point. Do you respect the great books, the great artworks, the masterpieces, the great events of the past? I mean, do you care about what really happened at Gettysburg, or do you want to just read an AI summary of it? Do you care about reading 19? You mentioned Orwell. Reading the actual book, 1984, so that when you get to that last sentence in the book, he loved Big Brother. That sends a chill through you. Do we want to deny young people the experience of listening to a great Beethoven symphony at the Beethoven's Fifth in that last one minute? I mean, don't you care about the words of the Gettysburg Address?
Hey,
does it matter to you?
Thanks a lot for the spoiler alert on 1984. I mean, come on, some of us have gotten around to it. I'm sure.
Yeah, we're living it. We're living it. So here we are.
No, but you're right about this, and this is the classical liberal arts education that has largely gone by the wayside. But the idea of part of education is to appreciate things that are beautiful and true. And you just don't
All right.
hear that sort of philosophy articulated from educators very much, it seems to me, anymore. I mean, I'm a little bit removed from school, but I don't see it in writings. I don't see it in arguments. You
Well,
just don't hear that sort of philosophy penetrating, larger topics.
I don't know if this is happening in the Chicago area, but after COVID, when a lot of parents saw through the screen what's really going on in the classrooms, and as they saw, the ideologies, all the fixations on identity and everything coming into the classroom, a whole lot of parents have pulled their kids out of public schools, and they're going toward these classical education schools. They're going toward homeschooling and looking
Yeah.
at curricula like the classical conversations curricula, where they're doing just the old-fashioned thing. And a lot of these schools are no screen schools. I mean, the cell phone bans, actually in the public schools, the cell phone bans are spreading. Has Chicago banned the cell phones in schools? Do you know?
Not generally speaking. I mean, I think there are one-off independent private schools that essentially do, but not system-wide. No.
Well, everyone. I mean, this is not a partisan issue either. You've got New York City and Los Angeles that are banning. I mean, look, in 2013, L.A. school district, the biggest school district in the country, massive. They spent more than $1 billion to get 700,000 laptops to give to students and teachers. Within 1 week, the students had found a way around all the blocks on the laptops so that they could hit the porn sites, the game sites. They could go into all the social media garbage, even though those computers were supposed to be geared only toward education. And so the school district had to pull all the laptops back. Huge mistake. But you want to say, guys, do you really think handing these tools to 14-year-olds that this wasn't going to happen? I mean, get real. I mean, anyway. So.
But more detail on the Books Act, because number one, that this is like model legislation to be applied at the state level where curriculum decisions are made, right? That's number one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so just give us sort of the broad outlines of what the Books Act would aim to do if an enlightened state government wanted to pursue it.
Well, it's really simple, and you want to keep bills as simple as possible. We don't want a 2,000-page bill, as happens typically in the federal government.
Nobody will read it. Yeah.
It simply mandates, as a state law, all public schools shall have in their English literary arts classrooms, ELA, from grades 6 to 12, mandates 2 books per semester shall be read in their entirety. That's it. That's all. Teachers can choose the books, so we've got a lot of local control. The books do have to be classic works. Can't just do contemporary novels about some kid undergoing some trauma, whatever. No, you can't do that. These have to be books relevant to a topic and addressing a serious thing. But again, wide latitude. If you want to do Animal Farm, a book that would be more associated with the right, and then choose some classic novel or something like John Stuart Mill's book on liberty, which is all about free speech and free thinking on the left. Fine. But the idea is we just want kids to read a whole book. Now, why is this important? Well, we got an attention span problem today. The screen has accelerated people's and overstimulated their minds so much that it's conditioned them to quick, fast, and disjointed consumption. Reading a whole book is a kind of concentration, like learning to play a piece of music. You got to stay with it. You got to practice. You got to focus on something. So it's not just the value of the book itself. It's the process of concentrating. It's the process of developing a longer attention, a slow absorption of words. And that this is actually a very good thing for the mental training for college, for the workplace, to sit for an hour and read a book without interruption. I mean, it's amazing. Something we all did, people my age as kids. This is actually a habit now that must be inculcated by the classroom.
And I like
because the rest of their world is so fast.
Right. And I like the idea, I again, from your piece in the Post, that half the mandated books must be pre-1900, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, come on. Let's get a little historical awareness.
Well, exactly. And it would seem to like, people are like, oh, 1900, why, it's arbitrary. Well, because then it forces you to think about Uncle Tom's Cabin, for example. You really want to understand the institution of slavery and related. So this is the point that seems to be lost on the mixed schools that we have going.
Well, again, one of the ideas of progressivism is the past was a mistake. The past is filled with injustice, exploitation, and oppression. We need to think about the future, and one of the ways progressives make a better future is we must discredit and then eliminate the past so that we can start anew. Today is year zero.
Yeah.
Well, nope. This actually is a horrible idea. To rob kids of a meaningful past is to leave them, again, ungrounded, right? Leave them rootless. Well, this is what progressives want to do. This is what re-education does. You turn people into a blank slate, and then you form them into the new man, the new kind of citizen. And one of the ways you do that is you deprive them of a past. You say there are no authorities, there are no role models that we can look to in the past. The past is made up of two kinds of people, victims and villains. And we don't need either of those two. We need to look ahead. And, as Barack Obama used to say, no matter what you accomplish, a progressive, as always, believes, quote, there's so much more to do. We still have so far to go. This is a typical progressivist outlook. So the reading of old books, that interferes with the agenda.
Mark Bauerlein, professor of English at Emory University, senior editor at First Things, author of The Dumbest Generation and The Dumbest Generation Grows Up. I love the Books Act idea. It's, if nothing else, it's hopefully instigates some thought and debate. Professor Bauerlein, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
My name is Dr. Michael Huber, co-founder of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. Virago has earned its place in your medicine cabinet. It's your proven go-to for the flu, colds, and COVID. But you already know that part of the